Identity shifting is the key in manifestation. You need to become someone new in order for your life to change and your reality to reflect a different story. We manifest by being, and a change needs to happen first on the inside and then on the outside. Plus, besides manifesting a new reality, the most fun part is actually becoming the best version of ourselves, because why not be a baddie? For me, it's very easy to shift into a new identity. I'm that kind of person that always goes through a new phase. I've always been changing myself, adopting new hobbies, new trends. It's like I'm literally a new person every 6 months. And that is because I am an artist and I also suffer from shiny object syndrome. I get inspired very easily and I want to explore many things, and besides this, I've always been obsessed with self-improvement as part of my self-concept. It's very easy for me to leave my old me, forget everything and just start fresh in a new identity. However, where I'm having more difficulties is on the other side of the spectrum, in not getting bored of an identity and want to change to a new one again. And yes, there are some identities very easy to shift into, like, for example, changing your music or fashion style, or adopting a new hobby that changes you into a new person. However, for this video, I want to focus more on these complex identities where your subconscious mind is like, hell no, that requires way too many changes for us. And it's also not safe. Yeah, because it is more difficult to remain shifted into a new identity that is very different from your subconscious programs that pull you back into your old self. And that's why it requires more work in persisting until remaining fully shifted. Because identity shifting is not just about the shifting process, like that you can do all the time. The idea is to actually change, become the new you, and remain shifted into the new you permanently. And it is not about fake it till you make it, where you start acting like the new you. Can that work? Yes, it can, but when does it start working? Exactly after you have practiced the new behavior so many times until you have finally started to believe what you need to believe. But why not shortcut the entire thing and just start already believing what you need to believe, and then you will start naturally to generate the new behavior in alignment with the new you. And it will not seem fake at all because they will come from you. I call it think it till you make it. And it's essentially self-concept work. So how do you actually shift your identity? How do you become and remain shifted into the best version of yourself? So the first step, and also the most fun part, is actually identifying and deciding who you want to be. And the best part is that the only limit is your imagination. You may already know who you want to be, but in case you're not fully sure, now is the time to think through the new version of you. To make it a bit easier, because we are complex beings and everyone is unique, the uniqueness is your identity. And what makes it so complex is that it is made of multiple different identities that together form a unique mix, which is called you. For example, some identities can be a partner or a spouse, or a single person, a parent, your job title or profession, an entrepreneur, an animal lover, a gym rat, a raver, a fashion addict, an artist, a spiritual person, and so on. And for each identity, even though the title is generic, you have your unique identity in those as well. For example, you can be an animal lover, but one pet at home is more than enough. Or you can take this more seriously and be a vet, or you can volunteer to take care of endangered animals. Or you can be a single person and your identity there can be a happy one where you feel so good by yourself, or you can be tired of it and looking actually to be in a relationship, but you find it difficult to find the right person. So you are made of multiple identities that in themselves are unique with your own stories, and also the ratios that make this complex mix is unique to you as well, because some identities take more time and focus than others. So in a period of your life, you will have to define yourself more as one or two identities and the others less. For example, when starting a business, an entrepreneur will be a more dominant one, or when you are becoming a parent, like your child is your priority more than your hobbies or other things. And you have to take into account these ratios, because especially when you want to make a change in a category, you will have to focus more on that, and you have to see if this is part of your priorities or not. Because if it requires a lot of effort to make that change, then it also requires more focus and to be prioritized. It can also be very easy or a subtle change because your beliefs already support that, and then even though that area is not a priority, you can easily change that identity. For example, in the fashion category, you want to become an elegant person. Then you ditch all your casual clothing and just buy new elegant clothes. Like, that is not that difficult. And when you want to make a change, first you need to identify on which area or category are you working on. You can work on multiple at once, of course, but it makes it so much easier when you define them. So that's why when you start to work on a new identity, you need to give it a title. How is it called? And you can give it a fun name, make it unique to you, make it into an affirmation. I am this that does that. What is important is to be short, powerful, and easy to remember. Even though in depth it can mean a lot of things, but it is important to give it a title, and it will make more sense why a bit later. Besides the title of your new identity, you also need to define how this person actually is. It's like you'd create the profile of a new avatar in a game or in a story. How does this person think or act? What do they like? What they don't like? How others will interact with them? How their life looks like? How would you feel being them? You have to use your imagination and let yourself dream on who you want to become. And it doesn't matter if you haven't experienced this before, you have this desire for a reason. This is the step where you really need to allow yourself to immerse in the details of who you want to become. And that's why it is easier if you just focus on one area at once, like for example, love life, career, hobbies, because they are complex identities in themselves. You can start answering the questions that I've just mentioned and complete into that. And yes, you have to write them down. You really have to put in some work if you want to change. Like, I cannot do it for you. And that was just the fun part. Now we move into the next step, which is more serious but extremely important. Because now you kind of need to look in the mirror and genuinely assess where and who you are in this current moment. Even though it can be so far away from who you want to be, it doesn't matter. And now on a separate sheet of paper, you have to write down who you are right now, all your limitations, all your negative beliefs. How do you feel? What do you do? How is your behavior? What are you thinking dominantly? What are your intrusive thoughts? You have to write down all the things that you don't want in yourself anymore, and you need to make this very clear because it will be much easier to recognize later when they will reappear while persisting in the new version of you. And in order to make this step easier, one trick is to try to identify yourself in this present moment as the new you. You can start affirming that I am this new title of my new identity, in this present moment. And when you do this, then all your limiting beliefs will start to pop up, all your resistance will come to the surface. Yeah, but there's this circumstance, I don't have this skill, I cannot do this, and so on. You need to identify what are those limiting beliefs that keep you stuck in this current version of yourself, because this will tell you exactly on what you need to work on. And you have to let it all out on paper, and you have to look more for beliefs. Like, what are those limiting beliefs? Because we need to change first our beliefs, and then our actions will start to change naturally. And it is okay if you write down behaviors or circumstances, because then you go again back through the list, and then you start to ask yourself, okay, what belief did I have that generated this action? What did I assume before that created this circumstance? Then once you have the list with the limiting beliefs, then you go again through it, and now you dig even deeper into your childhood trauma. But why do I even have this belief or thought? Where does this come from? Why don't I feel good enough for this? What happened in my childhood that made me perceive reality in this way? And why is this important? Because these are your core beliefs, programs that are running everything. And you need to change these if they are not allowing you to become the new you. These are generating all the other self-limiting beliefs. So it is like a cheat code. If you truly change some of these, you will have less work to do, because you will have less intrusive thoughts or limitations or other circumstances. And if you want to make this right and more efficient and start working on the things that you actually need to work on, then you can take this step even deeper. So now you can look back at your dream self. Where do you want to be? And ask yourself, but why do I even want to become this person? Is this an end goal or a means goal? Like, do I want to become this new way because this is indeed the best version of myself? Or do I want through this to mask something else that I actually need to work on? Also, because a lot of the times we think we want something, but then later we found out that we wanted something else. So why waste time when we can better identify who we actually want to be and just start directly working on that? For me, growing up, I really thought that I wanted to become an architect because I have all the natural abilities and talents for this. And also because my grandparents were architects, so I grew up with this ideal that this is what I am supposed to do. And I liked it very much when I was little to design homes, I was playing Sims a lot and building all sorts of stuff. Then this idea got stuck with me over the entire school years, and when everyone was asking me, who do you want to become? I was like, oh yes, an architect. Like, the program was so strong that I did not even question it or look to see if I wanted something else instead. The only other things that I like were fashion and art, but I thought that I would not learn as much if I just study art at the university. But the issue is that I did not know what being an architect really means and how a daily job actually looks like. And I went to university, I studied architecture, and then in my 4th year, I realized that I don't want to do this anymore because it is more technical than design, and I thought that I should become a designer instead. So then I had to shift and study branding and graphic design while finishing my university studies to 6 years in total, because otherwise I couldn't have gotten my master's degree anymore. So it was really painful to do something that I didn't want to do anymore, and that was also challenging, while on the side doing something else so that I can change my reality. So yeah, I completed my architecture studies, and now, no, I'm not a graphic designer either, because then going into it, I realized that I don't like it as much in order to make it my whole life career. And now I have a corporate job that I like, and I'm also doing this YouTube channel on the side because I'm passionate about mindset and manifestation. So I have to say that my identity shifting is still in progress. But the idea is that if I would have taken the time to identify who I really wanted to be, the outcome for sure would have been something else. But I am still grateful for studying architecture because I developed a lot of transferable skills. So yes, you really have to take the time and really identify if this is who you want to be or is it something else. And if not, once you identify who you want to be, I'm sorry, but then you have to go back to step 1 and define again the profile of this new version of you. Alright, so now after you have identified who you want to be, what you need to change in yourself, now it's again the fun part where we get to the actual shifting. And what you have to do is to bridge the gap between the two. And everything is about thoughts and beliefs. What do you need to think in order to be the new you? If there are some specific behaviors, you can keep them on a separate list, but what you need to focus most is on the beliefs. Because through this, maybe you will generate a new behavior or circumstances that you haven't even thought of because you don't have the program installed yet to think of this. So now you have to take all the limiting beliefs and transform them into new, positive, clean ones that are aligned with this new version of you. So you literally have to take the core, the negative beliefs, and write down the opposite, preferably in an I am affirmation. Then once you have the full list of the new beliefs that you need to integrate, now you can meditate on them or transform them even in sleep affirmations. And you can do this simply with voice notes on your phone. Just record yourself affirming these new beliefs in a voice note and then listen to it daily or before going to sleep while really putting focus on affirming the new beliefs. And if there are too many beliefs to work on at once, then you can prioritize them based on the ones that are most triggering in that moment. And if they are too triggering, then you can also take them in steps with more lighter affirmations like I am starting to believe this. But the goal is to get to a place where your affirmations become like, yeah, of course I am like this. Then you know that you don't have to put in as much work on this one because it will feel by default. But the main change that you will have to see is not in how easy you can affirm these new beliefs, but rather in how you will think and feel with each day and how your behavior will change naturally. Plus, not to mention manifesting a new set of circumstances that are aligned with this new version of you and your dream reality. And yeah, some identities are more complex to change and to integrate, and that's why it takes more time and the process requires more persisting. And while you are persisting in shifting into this new you, it is okay if you still get thoughts of your old self. Because this is an iterative process. Like once you get a limiting thought again, you need to go back to step 2 and identify from where this thought is coming from. Maybe there is still something that you haven't discovered from childhood or other core beliefs. But when you get these all limiting thoughts, once you have understood where they come from, or maybe you don't have time to reanalyze everything, then you can just flip the thought with the affirmation of the new you. Because your old thoughts are sometimes just a habit that you are used to thinking this way, and that's why you have to create a new habit to think in a different way. But if thought flipping does not work and you still get that intrusive thought, then you need to go back to step 2 and reanalyze everything. And yes, this process might feel delusional, especially at the beginning when you start to think in a new way and everything feels like wishful thinking because you are not used to it. And if you struggle with feeling delusional while manifesting, then I also have this video where you can watch for extra inspiration. And this is why giving your new identity a unique title is important, because when things get tough or unwanted circumstances appear in your life, then you can affirm that you are this new title, of your new identity, and then you can easily shift back into the new you. And if keeping affirming this does not work to shift back, then you have to ask yourself, like, why? What is holding you back? And you have to listen to that voice, because it is telling you exactly what limiting beliefs are triggering you in that moment and on what you need to work on. This is what I do. If I cannot shift back into the new me, then I ask myself, okay, what thought or belief do I have that I still need to work on? What is keeping me stuck? And then in that day or period, I focus more on meditating on affirmations related to that intrusive thought until I don't have it anymore. Sometimes it is a process. The shifting is not always instant, but with more practice and persisting, then it will become more and more natural until you'll even forget the old you. And yes, it is an iterative process, because after a period of time of implementing them, then you have to reanalyze and see where you are now, how much you have leveled up, how much you still have to change, and so on until fully shifted. And if you apply this correctly and work on the beliefs that you really need to work on, then this improvement process should not take so long. I find it so fascinating when we get to see how we are actually making these changes in ourselves, and how surprising it is when you look back and you realize how much you have grown. Like, you literally forget who you were before, or you cannot believe that you were at that level. Like, I love when this happens. I am Anneliese, and I am passionate about becoming the best version of ourselves and living our dream life, because it's already ours. Thank you so much for watching and stay till the end, and I really hope that you will love this next video as well. Love you, bye!